Hi guys, welcome back. This is week number 5 of our Stars of the Forest Quilt Along for a Cause 2020. We are sewing star 3. This assembles in 8 sections, but each of the quarters of the block are exactly the same. So you're really only doing 2 different sections multiplied times 4. Now I have just finished up piecing all of my sections, and one of the things that I'd like to remind you, if you're not used to piecing larger blocks, or even if you are, one of the things that I highly recommend is basting your fabric down. See, when I hold the fabric up, it droops a little bit, but the dot of glue holds it where it needs to be. And this is gonna make it so much easier to assemble all of my different sections. I'm not gonna be chasing around my fabric or worried about it bunching in different spots. You can also glue baste while you're going. For instance, I actually needed to use a little bit of glue on the number 3 sections of this, right in this area, to hold it flat while I got number 4 ready and sewed on. Otherwise, it had a tendency to crumple up underneath my sewing machine. If you're not into glue basting, you could use a pen to hold that fabric in place. You could run a very wide basting stitch. I am not a big fan of the basting stitch, partly because I hate my seam ripper and partly because I think it's kind of a hassle to go back and forth between your stitch lengths. So if you need to baste with the wide stitch, then you have to go back and reset the sewing machine to very tiny stitches for your paper piecing so that it tears out easily. Assembly on these sections is going to be very easy. We're going to take our sections, assemble them together so that they make 4 separate squares, and then we'll put the squares together. This is definitely a block that you need to make sure you use your straight pins on so that you pin exactly in the corners so that all of your seams on the back that you're going to sew through are nice and straight. That's going to make your life so much easier. As you can see, the first thing we're going to want to do is lay out our pattern, and the back of the pattern is going to look exactly like your coloring page or your planning guide, because remember, they're the mirrored image of the finished block, so they look like what you're sewing through as opposed to what the block is going to finish like. If you look at page 2 of your directions, the first thing you're going to see is that you need to pair A to B, C to D, E to F, and G to H. So what that means is we're going to sew our little sections to our big sections of each of the quarter of the block. And once we have our quarter assembled, we can assemble the block from there. When you go to pin these sections together, you're going to want to make sure that even though they're different colors, this comes to as much of a point as possible. You're going to want to iron towards the little section. So for instance, on this block, it would be towards the B section and away from A. And the reason that we do that, these will nest, and so that's going to help keep this line as crisp as possible. So the next thing we're going to do is take section AB and attach it to section, so AB to CD and section HG to EF. Even though it is a nesting seam, you'll still want to stick your straight pin in to hold it as secure as possible, and go ahead and baste it. Now we're going to want to use the same nesting principle with this one. We have a little bit of a bulky spot in each of these sections. From the back, it looks like the bulky spot would actually be on the A and the E sections, but if you try to fold the paper towards the G and the C, it's surprisingly right here. So you want to fold it towards E and F and towards A and B. And that will give you nice nesting seams. when we go to sew the two halves of our block together, we're going to have 5 crucial points that you'll want to stick a straight pin in. Up at the top, the second one is here, the third is in the middle, then 4 and 5 are at the bottom and look just like the top. And there you have it. This is star 3 of our Quilt Along for a Cause 2020.